Today, you will find out if you are going to receive 100% of your SNAP benefits or about 54%. But where is that 54% coming from, and why would the federal government only give you a little more than half of your monthly benefit? Well, we're going to talk about that in today's video because two federal judges have now told the Trump administration you have until Monday and Wednesday to decide. But why do those 2 days matter, and which day is more important? Well, today is the most important one, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But first, before I do, if you are really wanting to make sure that your SNAP benefits don't get cut off, go ahead, hit that like button, and now let's begin. Look at this right here. It says, Trump administration must continue food aid during the shutdown. This is according to two U.S. judges. They said that later last week on Thursday. That was very important. But it's what the Trump administration has to decide on is what is critical at this time. Look at this right here. It says Trump administration faces Monday deadline to use of contingency funds for SNAP. Here's what's happening. The Trump administration has to decide today on Monday if they are going to use the contingency funds to pay for a portion of SNAP benefits. I want to show you this. Look at this right here. It says, the U.S. Department of Agriculture planned to freeze payments to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program starting November 1st because it said it could no longer keep funding it due to the shutdown. The program serves about 1 in 8 Americans and is a major piece of the nation's social safety net, and it costs about $8 billion per month nationally. What's interesting about that $8 billion is a lot of articles say $8 billion, but according to the USDA, they're about $9.2 billion. Okay? So with that said, the contingency funds are about $5 billion. The amount of money that is needed to fund SNAP in its entirety is about $9 billion. Meaning that if they only have enough money for $5 billion, that's all they have, that means it's about 54% of your monthly benefit. So let's say you get $200 per month as a SNAP benefit. Well, just do 54% of that. That is, what, $108. That's what you'd get. Instead of your $200, you'd get $108. All right, so every $100 you get $54 of that. That is what they're talking about, and that is going to be decided on today. I want to read this to you right here. It says, on Friday, judges in Rhode Island and Massachusetts ruled separately that the administration must continue to pay for SNAP. They both gave the administration leeway on whether to fund the program partially or in full for November. The USDA has a $5 billion contingency fund for the program, but the Trump administration reversed an earlier agency plan to use that money to keep SNAP running. Democratic officials urged that the administration could also use a separate fund of about $23 billion. And yes, there's money out there that the federal government has that they just haven't used yet. The problem with this, though, is that if we pull that money from another program over to SNAP, yes, we give the money to those that are in need. The concern is what happens to that funding, or what happens to those programs that we just pulled the funding from. What if we pulled it from something that is deemed essential? Again, SNAP benefits is essential as well. But I want to read you something. Okay? Look at this right here. It says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says food benefits could flow by Wednesday, according to the government shutdown recap. It says right here, let me read this to you. It says Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Sunday that President Donald Trump wants to hear from the courts about how to legally move money around to fund SNAP payments, but he noted during an interview on CNN's State of the Union that it could flow by Wednesday. Even if SNAP benefits start flowing by Wednesday, states are likely going to take 5 to 10 days to get that money onto EBT cards so that you can use it. So keep that in mind. Even though the money could start flowing from the federal government to the states are likely going to cause a delay. Okay? So there's a good chance you're not going to be able to use any of this funding until potentially next week. So again, I know that's a struggle for many people, but that's currently where we're at. Scott Bessent goes on to say, there's a process that has to be followed, so we've got to figure out what the process is. But here's the interesting thing. The courts President Trump wants to hear how he can legally move money around to fund SNAP. Okay? Keep this in mind, what is said right here. President Trump wants to hear from the courts about how to legally move money around to fund SNAP. Here's where the courts have to be very cautious. According to a insider, okay, I'm just going to say this. According to somebody with knowledge of the situation and is kind of in the rooms, what they are saying, and again, I don't want to give too much here because this was privileged information. What they are saying is that Democrats are warning the courts about what to tell President Trump because, and again, this is why I'm bringing this up. He wants to hear from the courts how to legally move money around to fund SNAP. What could happen, this is what Democrats are concerned with, is if President Trump, and he's a smart man, he's a businessman, if he figures out a way, a loophole, to move money around that will fund SNAP, it could also work for him to move money around to fund other priorities during a government shutdown. That's the concern that Democrats have, is that, yes, we can legally move money around, but this also opens up the door to move money around for other priorities. And President Trump is not going to do that for those Obamacare subsidies. So we're going to see what happens there. I want to play you this TikTok video. Then I want to read you a comment that somebody left me. Listen to this.
I just wanted to make a post because sorry, I was crying a little bit. But I receive SNAP benefits. I don't know, I'm a little embarrassed to say that, I guess, but it is what it is. And I have my 9-month-old and my 2-year-old down here, and I have my husband, the father of these boys, and we just got married a month ago, and he's in between jobs.
Okay. Why did I just show you that? Well, I want to read you this comment somebody left me. This person wrote, and I quote, "My dad once told me to never count on the government for anything or else you will be enslaved to them. And I didn't listen. I thought free food. What could be better? I was getting government assisted housing and thought this was great. It wasn't until I found your channel a few weeks ago that I really started to put it all together. Now, I don't have any money for food. I still have my apartment, but it isn't very nice. And I lost my job on October 31st. My dad was right in every way, and I wish I would have learned this sooner. So anybody that is reading this, never rely on the government for anything." That right there is a very big statement. One of the things I learned early on, and this person obviously learned it a little bit later, but is do not rely on somebody else for anything. Nothing. Okay? Do not put all your eggs in one basket. And I say this because there's a lot of people out there that they're struggling, but some people are struggling, but not trying to get out of that struggle, where they are accepting the fact that they get food stamps, which is great. I think the program is awesome. It does what it needs to do and provides food to those in need. Now it also provides food to those that are not in need and that are taking advantage of the system. But we can't just get rid of the entire thing because there would be too many people hurting for those that are taking advantage of it and scamming the system. Now, with that said, you cannot rely on the federal government for anything, and this is why. The federal government will shut down for whatever reason. The federal government will pass a bill or a law that will completely change your life, okay? And they can do that snap of fingers. You cannot rely on the federal government for food. You can't rely on the federal government for health care. You can't rely on the federal government for housing. Just don't rely on the federal government. Okay? That's the one thing I want to leave you with. Okay? Right now, we are going to learn whether or not the federal government and the Trump administration is going to provide these contingency funds and about 54% of your benefits. If they announce that today, it means that you're going to receive a partial payment. If they wait until Wednesday, there's a good chance you're going to receive something larger than 54%, possibly 100%. But again, we are going to have to wait and see. So that's where we're at as of today. Again, this is a major week. We're going to learn either today or in the next couple of days whether or not the Trump administration is going to find the money to give you 100% of your benefits or a partial payment. So make sure you stick around, because as soon as we get that information, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates as soon as we get them. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.